Hi and welcome to Daily Chess and my recap of the 41st GM tournament in Dortmund, the Sparkassen Chess Meeting 2013. This time I show you the game of the eventual winner, Michael Adams, who played against Igor Khenkin from Germany. And he managed to exploit the opponent's slightly dubious positional play. Khenkin is known to be a very solid player, and after e4 he usually chooses c6, the Caro-Kann defense. After d4, he'll play d5. And now, white has several systems. He can play e5, the advanced variation, simply gaining more space. He can exchange it off, and then continue with bishop d3, knight f3, and so on. Or play a bit more sharper with c4, the so-called Panov-Botvinnik attack. There are many other moves. You can also play, for example, knight c3 here, which might just transpose after d takes e4, knight takes e4. Because after knight d2 as happened in the game, black took anyway, and knight takes d4 leads to the same position. Black is telling, after the knight moves to e4, he's a bit loose. He needs protection, once again, and black can usually get time to develop his piece, his bishop especially, before going knight bd7, because both pieces share this developing square, because c6 prevents the knight from going to its natural square on c6. Therefore, one piece has to free the way, and this time it's the bishop. Knight g3, hitting the bishop, and bishop g6. And if we look at the position of this bishop here, he doesn't have many squares if white is to push h4, h5, because the knight does a very, very good job in controlling f5, h5, f3. The queen and the bishop control d3, and the queen controls c2, which means the bishop doesn't have many moves, and that's what white basically tries to exploit by pushing h4. And the immediate threat is h5, winning the bishop. And this attempt to gain the initiative is a typical way of trying to exploit the rather solid character of the Caro-Kann, because black in a way doesn't have really weaknesses, and white needs to do something in order to create some weaknesses and to be able to exploit it. Therefore, after h6, there are two moves basically: h5, which is I think one of the main lines even, and after bishop h7 to go with bishop d3. Now first gaining space, first hitting the bishop, and if he retreats, to go for bishop d3 and then exchange it off. With a very solid position for black. Next he will play e6. So let's say after queen takes d3, e6. He already exchange off his bad bishop, his light good bishop, and can put his bishop here to d6, a very powerful diagonal, and then continue with knight f6, knight d7. The queen can go to c7 or to e7, castle either queen side or king side, and putting the rook on d, and it's very, very solid. It's very easy to play, especially in blitz games. And Michael Adams chooses knight f3, which, in a way, does not kick the bishop immediately, but plans something else, playing knight e5, hitting the bishop, and already eyeing this vulnerable square on f7, after which queen f3 might come, queen h5 might even come, hitting this very vulnerable square. Therefore my preference would probably be knight d7, which looks the most solid. Knight e5 does not give anything, because of the knight e5 takes. I could even just spoil castle, queenside castling, and suddenly now all black's pieces are coming. I mean, e6, oops, e6 comes, the bishop goes out, hitting a pawn, initiative, knight goes to d7, occupying d5 or f5, very very strong squares for him, and black can just maybe even slight edge. Therefore h5, bishop h7, and this bishop is surprisingly very very active here and also very annoying. Therefore bishop d3 is a usual theme here, trying to exchange it off and gain some time, putting the queen in the center and in a way gaining one tempi in order to go queenside castling if white intends it. So after e6, bishop d2, knight g2 f6, and queenside castle. Bishop e7, king b1. An interesting prophylactic move here. Also, if the queen goes to f5 sometimes after c3, she doesn't hit a hanging pawn. Queen b6, rook h to e1, castle, as in the game Topalov against Mamedyarov in Zug 2013. The game was eventually drawn. It's probably just thanks to the very very solid character of the position here. So knight f6, knight d5 comes because knight d7 didn't prevent it, bishop h7, and now bishop d3. And I don't know why he didn't take. I mean, if the takes, well, either knight b7 now, or maybe even e6 first. It looks still very very decent for black. I mean, this knight is very powerful on e5, but you can exchange it off either with the b knight or with f knight, and bishop d6 comes, and after bishop d6 you might even threaten to take here and then take the queen, getting play against the backward pawn, and I don't know, maybe it was a bit too dry. Bishop takes h7, and very important, okay, if rook takes h7 he cannot castle kingside, so he needs to castle queenside, and this takes additional time. Knight takes h7 was played in Istanbul 2000. Queen is e2. Simply if black captures on e5 to avoid a queen's exchange, as in the game Peter Svidler against how hard, I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but therefore knight takes e5 is the main move here. And after d takes e5, it's important that you don't take here on d1. The reason is after king takes d1, white is still up material. The bishop picked up the bishop, which means he has to recapture, and at the same time his knight is hanging. Of course he could just gain time, queenside castle and so on. But this doesn't solve the problem probably. After knight takes h7, king e2, white gets a very very good endgame. I mean, f6 is not accessible for the knight, g5 isn't so as well. The bishop goes to e3, probably hitting a7, so queenside castling is also not very appealing. At least now white might get some initiative, and it's not easy because very very cramped position, and yeah, white is simply better. Therefore queen a5, and okay, now hitting also the pawn on e5. Therefore king f1. If he takes on e5, white uses the fact that he's just simply picked up a piece and retreats, winning. Therefore knight takes h7 is forced. The pawn on e5 is therefore protected. And now comes a very interesting positional move, which simply tries to get an advantage in structure. And it's really a very very interesting try. I mean, e6 is just a pawn sacrifice, but it has some venom, because after, I mean, if he goes rook d8, hitting the queen, yes, first of all take, queen f3, now hitting the queen, and then playing something like bishop f4, for example, or bishop e3. If instead f6 or f5 might even be possible now, but queen d7 finishes the game. Therefore, queen d5, stopping the threat of mate in 1 on d7, and offering not to exchange queens. E takes f7 first. It's important that you don't take on d5 because of the c takes d5, e takes f7, king takes f7. I would say black is already starting to get to be slightly better. I mean, he has very good central pawns, his structure has been improved, and yeah, now the e7 pawn can support the d5 pawn, and later on in an endgame they might be of an advantage. Therefore, e takes f7 first, queen takes f7, knight e4. The knight returns, and now knight takes f6, which I don't know. I must admit I don't like this plan of knight e4 and knight takes f6 at all, because it just helps black. I mean, if we look at the position, his king is still in the center. He cannot castle queenside. Bishop e3 is coming. Bishop f4 might even come later on. And I know it's still not easy to finish his development. He has a weakness here. And if white somehow manages to exchange those two pieces here, he will be simply better. I mean, probably he is even slightly better here. I mean, this weakness on E on the lead file, it's always something that you have to be aware of and you have to pay attention to. And after knight e4, knight f6, and even taking, I would say it's maybe strategically already dubious. And after e takes f6, black is just fine, just equalized. I mean, the pawn structure is symmetrical, and black does not have any problems whatsoever. I mean, bishop e7, shot cancelled, the rook hits the queen. Very, very good position. But now, there comes an interesting move, and I don't know. Sometimes I think, or I have to, I don't know, wonder if grandmasters got their title by chance, because this is a very, very bad move in my opinion. I mean, it's not losing, but okay, you try to play for something, try to imbalance a position so you have something on your own to play for a win. But in this case, it just weakens your position. I mean, it just keeps the position weakened. You still have this weakness on Eve, and I mean, if you want to play for a win, you should probably play something more complex, something maybe like a Sicilian or Pyrrhic or whatever. If you play for solid line, you shouldn't be afraid of a simple position, of a simplified position. And queen takes f6 is just bad. I mean, after rook h3, suddenly white gets an initiative, and a very serious one. For example, e6, bishop e3, with the intention of going bishop d4. Already hitting this pawn here, which means that after something like, I don't know, so that's not possible. Bishop's okay. That's a very, very difficult number. Get bishop e4, but this doesn't help him. So let's say even after bishop e7, bishop d4 comes, queen g6, now rook g3, now hitting this vulnerable square twice, and after queen f5, rook takes g7, and the point being that after something like this, I guess you might also just consider playing. Okay, if bishop takes a7, maybe this comes. Therefore, what about bishop b6? Isn't this mate? No, it doesn't seem so, yeah. To this, cannot mate him, yeah. So let's see, bishop takes h4, bishop a7. Isn't there anything else? What about bishop? What about g3 here first? Because one idea is here, maybe you have a potential discovered attack. Certainly you cannot play this because otherwise it's mate. But maybe you could somehow prepare it. I mean, if you play g3, the bishop has to go. I mean, this pin cannot be exploited because the rook can recapture. If bishop g5, now rook takes b7 comes, hitting the rook, and white probably just wins. Therefore, after this, and okay, let's say bishop f6, he just takes, queen takes, check there, hitting the rook, and yeah, it's just a very good position. I mean, this pawn will fall later on. This pawn might fall. It's just winning. And after, what else? Bishop e7 probably just to stop. Now the connection, the link between the rook and the potential queen. You can probably just simplify him. I mean, I know. What about this? Just take. Isn't this okay? After no, this cannot be played. So maybe let's say if he takes, rook takes. Queen d4, centralizing the queen, and maybe even hitting the king. Now tactics start to work. See all these ideas. And if rook d8 now just not there. Queen b4 check, and next move picking up this pawn here maybe. Then this one's weak, this one's weak. The king is still exposed. The rook comes to e, hitting the e6 pawn. Looks also very, very dangerous. Yeah. Okay, bishop f8. Sorry, rook f8. Once again, now this setup here in a way forces white to keep this bishop on this diagonal here, because otherwise it's just mate on f2. And after queen g4, okay, Adam still tries to exchange queens, because with a structural advantage, you usually try to aim for an ending, because the chance to exploit it there is much higher. I mean, okay, even long castle is probably just lost already. I mean, okay, rook d8 just speeds up the process of the rook e1. Yeah, rook d3, d6, c3. I thought about bishop a7. I mean, just wins a pawn. But okay, queen takes f5 is maybe more simple. If e takes e5, it's just a mate, because actually it's okay. I think it's mate. Also very interesting because a nice tactical motive here. Black cannot get rid of white's initiative, and white can pick up all the pawns on the 7th rank. For example, rook takes b7, threatening rook b8 mate. King has to go, king c8. Rook takes a7, threatening rook a8 mate. After king b8, bishop e5. A final pin, picking up the exchange, and just win the game. Therefore, after this, he has to go for rook takes. But even so, I mean, it's just lost. I mean, what does he want to do? This pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. It's just a lost position. Okay, c3. Well, it's okay. h5, queen g6, king d8, and now taking the queen. Again, the e-pawn cannot take because the bishop is hanging. Rook takes, rook g8, king d7, g3. Just fortifying his position. He has a very long-term plus. I mean, he has a pawn up, and he has these weaknesses here. Especially this one might be a potential target. After c5, bishop e3, bishop f6, rook f8. So if the bishop moves, he might even exchange off some pieces. And after a6, rook s7, he finally resigned. The reason being that after this, he might take, play bishop takes c5, and if, after this, mass exchange comes, not the king, e2 f3. This pawn ending is just winning. I mean, black cannot create a pass pawn here, You cannot create a pass pawn there on the queen side. White has a majority here on the queen side, a majority here on the king side. You can create run away 2 pass pawns, and the lone king cannot really deal with it. So the position is just lost. Yeah, so far. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this clip. It would be nice if you subscribe to my channel here and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and so on, Daily Chess TV, or dailychess.org, and visit my website, dailychess.org, as where you can find lectures and book reviews, chess-related book reviews, also some DVD reviews by Chessbase. I also do some live tactics there, and if you're interested in something like this, just subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with new clips being published. And if you have any suggestions, just leave a comment in my channel, and I try to reply as soon as possible. Okay, thanks for watching.